Hello, guys. So, decided to start a new podcast about my experiences in Sydney and my perspective. I mean, the things that I observe that are different from India. So, basically, this would be like an Indian perspective um, of life in Sydney. In like as someone from like a developing country or even a third world country, I would say, is India a third world country? Let me Google it. For example, in the Western theory, China and India belong respectively to the second and third worlds. But in Mao's theory, both China and India are part of the third world. Okay, so exploit which he defined as consisting of exploited nations. Okay, let me have a look at what third world refers to. The term third world arose during the Cold War and it was used to define countries that remained non aligned with either NATO or the Warsaw Pact. The United States, Canada, Japan, South Korea, Western European nations, and allies represented the first world. I see. Okay, I didn't know this. While the Soviet Union, China, Cuba, North Korea, Vietnam, and their allies represented the second world. Hmm. I see. Okay. Yeah, first of all, I've never thought about. I never really thought about this. What exactly first world means? What exactly second world means? Okay, okay, now I get it. So India is a third world nation. So coming from, I think any of you guys watching who comes from a developing or an underdeveloped country would be able to relate to this. Mm, because there are so many things that I see here, that I experience here. That it's truly a luxury where I wouldn't get this in like in India, you know. So I'll be discussing a lot of that kind of stuff in this podcast. So I'll start with my first. I mean, the very first time I came to Sydney. It was back in I think 2000, it was back in 2018, 2018, sometime April. And the very first thing that I noticed as soon as the first day, like I booked, I think, an Airbnb and somewhere close to Newtown, St. Peter's to be exact. Uh, and I went for a walk. There's a park very close to St. Peter's. Like it's where the Newtown King Street meets St. Peter's. You know, there's a park there, and like went for a walk and in that area, and I noticed so many Asians, and I was surprised because that's not really what they show on TV and all that, right? Like when you see when you watch TV, Australia, they always show this kind of white, you know, typical Western kind of face people and with a heavy Australian accent. If you notice, if you keenly observe, you will see that they mostly show people from Brisbane. And now I'm I'm not sure how multicultural Brisbane is. Uh, I don't think it's as multicultural as Sydney. But I mean, even for a multicultural city like Sydney, I'm talking about the proportion of other ethnicities versus the Asians, right? You see a lot of Asians here. And the first thing that I'm not saying that as a bad thing or a good thing for that matter. It's just an observation because they just don't show you this kind of stuff on TV, right? And then the first thing that I thought to myself, wow, I'll never run out of rice. So, uh, because I'm from a southern part of India where our staple food is rice. So India is very diverse. Uh, so the food varies from we have around 30 plus states, right? And each state has its own language. For those of you who think India is just one country, one language, one people, I mean one kind of people, no, it's not. Imagine United States, and I know United States has 50 plus states or something, each having its own language and food. And that's how complex India is, right? And if you start traveling from the south towards the north, or from the south towards the west or east for that matter, you'll see that rice is predominantly had in the south and the southeastern part. Okay. And wheat is predominantly had in the northern part and the northwestern part. And in the middle, they eat a bit of both. I know that because I've lived in Pune. Pune is a city in the western part of India, so I know that I've lived there for almost 10 years. So and that's why I'm saying like I got really happy that I would never run out of rice because we walk, talk, and breathe rice in the southern part of India. Everything is made from rice, be it the breakfast, the lunch, or the dinner. Everything starts and ends with rice. That's how huge rice is when it comes to India. Now, another thing that I noticed in Sydney is apart from the fact that there's a lot of Asian. Another thing that I how do I say this that I notice is that I'm starting to slowly like the East Asian food. So coming from an Indian, I'm a bit too South Indian for my when it comes to food, uh, and it took a few years for me to kind of get used to other cuisines because so when you live in a big city like Sydney, you have lots of food options. First of all, because of its multicultural mix. So I got to like you get to try many different types of cuisines. And if there's one or two cuisines that I started to like apart from my own cuisine in the past 4 to 5 years that I've been here, it would be Thai food. Thai food is like Thai food is yummy, and Malaysian food. Malaysian food is beautiful. It's delicious. So Malaysian food is basically um, so is basically when think about it like this: when East Asian food meets South Asian food, it kind of tastes like the Malaysian food. I think because Malaysian food, to whatever Malaysian restaurants that I've had, there's one really good restaurant in Haymarket in Sydney CBD. It's called Mamak, and it's always crowded whenever I go, whatever time, irrespective of whatever time I visit, the place is always crowded, and the food is delicious. So if you're from East Asia and you want to try South Asian food, start with the Malaysian food because it has both elements of um, East Asian food as well and South Asian food as well. I think because it is a mix of a Tamil and Chinese cuisines, I believe. That's one thing that you get to try a lot of interesting cuisines here. And another thing that I've noticed, so interesting thing, the East Asian fashion. Somehow I feel like their fashion doesn't align with the mainstream fashion at all. It's like they live in their own. It's like they almost live in a different universe. You know what I mean? Um, what I mean by that is their mainstream fashion is completely different from a typical Western mainstream fashion. Is what I notice. So I don't I have not seen many Asians with formal shoes. I'm not sure if this is a thing or this is just maybe a coincidence or any like I'm just telling you guys about my observation. It's very so unless you are working in a uh, like an 9 to 5 job or your work demands it. Maybe I've the only time that I've seen Asians wearing formal mm, uh, dresses with formal shoes. I mean, formal shoes is when they wear formal dresses. Otherwise, most of the time, all I see is they wear a lot of baggy clothing here, baggy pants and baggy jackets and lots of sports shoes. And it's almost always like that whenever I go out, right? Lots of loose clothing with lots of really fancy sports shoes. So I'm wondering if this is like an East Asian thing. Mm, and I think I'm slowly becoming like that because it's really comfortable, these sports shoes, right? When you when you want to, especially want to walk a lot, uh, because my typical weekend, this is how it goes, right? I wake up around 11, and finish all my morning duties, and I start having breakfast. So as soon as I start having breakfast, I switch on YouTube and then watch food videos of Japan, or walking tours of Japan. That has become like my regular weekend thing. I'm not even joking. Not just Japan. Like I watch. I follow a lot of these food bloggers, travel channels and whatnot on YouTube. YouTube is like my favorite pastime. So 80% of the time I'm at home, mostly spent on YouTube. The remaining 20% would be Netflix or Amazon Prime, or watching some movies or something like that. Mostly YouTube. And I watch these. I keep going back to these Japanese videos for some reason. It's like it's like traveling, but not traveling. It's like you're going. You're seeing those beautiful places in Japan, though you are at home, and that's one beautiful thing about technology, isn't it? So slowly I'm starting to like the typical, what would be considered typically Asian. So I started having a lot of Malaysian food, Thai food, starting to wear baggy clothes, start watching a lot of Japanese videos. And not to mention, I love Japanese trap music. It's not mainstream yet, but I think it has a cult following on YouTube. If you guys you guys should check out like some of these Japanese trap instrumentals. Mostly it's instrumentals on YouTube. If you search for, there's this word that they use. It's called Trapanese. This is Japanese trap music, Trapanese. And I have done a couple of videos on my channel. If you've been following my channel, and it's very interesting. It's very addictive. So in a few years from now, if I start making videos in Japanese, no, don't be surprised. I haven't been to Japan though. It's my dream. Kyoto specifically. It's just what a place. Even this morning, I was watching uh, David's Been Here, the channel. I think he recently uploaded a documentary on Japan, almost an hour long, I guess, and Kyoto and Osaka. There's another couple, Jan and Anne, or Anne and Jan, or something. that I was watching yesterday. Their trip, their visit to Osaka and Kyoto and whatnot. It's, yeah, as I said, it's become like my regular weekend thing. Mm. Let me know, guys. What is it? So is this is there a certain mainstream fashion that's prevalent in the eastern part of Asia that the non-East Asians should know about? I know there's I'm not into this whole K-pop thing, but even the K-pop videos that I very few videos that I watch, even them, right? They tend to follow a certain kind of style and fashion, really baggy. So I'm wondering if the mass is just trying to copy the Korean mainstream fashion or whatnot. I don't know. Even the Japanese fashion, for that matter. I think Japan has its own sense of style and whatnot, but it's predominantly baggy, isn't it? Like, see, from someone from India, we just follow whatever is the trend in the mainstream Western world. Mm, so when I was in college, this bootcut thing was huge in like everybody wore bootcut. It almost looks like a bell bottom. I'm talking about the early 2000s and the mid 2000s. And in the 90s, it was mostly baggy clothing. I think that's how. So basically, in India, we follow whatever is the trend in the Western world. So that is why I'm just trying to understand, like, because the East Asian fashion doesn't necessarily align with this, with whatever I say. I'm just trying to understand, like, if there's they have a whole different um, fashion universe that they that they align themselves with. I'm just curious. So yeah, I'll finish this episode with that, and not to mention, I have a thing for thick Asians and Latinas. So if you are a thick Asian or a Latina who's watching this video, I mean, I'm just kidding. No, am I? Let me know if you're interested in an Indian guy. If any of you Latinas or thick Asians watching this, leave a comment. Bye bye.